Sekai another victim.
Hello guys, welcome back to another video. I'm watching a video because I'm gonna be itching up and I'm not gonna be bored. So let's start the video.
And a disgusting creep started sprinting towards him. However, Mikami pushed Temura out of the way to save his life, but the knife was as blood began leaving his body, he realized how painfully hot it was. But in that instant, God's voice appeared in his head, granting him the heat resistance skill. And when he wondered why he was about to die a painful death, God granted him invincibility to physical attacks along with the pain nullification ability, and began creating a body that doesn't require blood. In his last moments, he wondered why he lived such a pathetic life where his own best friend stole the love of his life, and thought the world was cold. But after letting those words out, God granted him the cold resistance skill, and fused it with the heat resistance skill, creating the legendary thermal invincibility unique skill. In his last words, he told his friend to delete his history and destroy his hard drive, and wished that he wouldn't have died an ugly, useless virgin. So in his next life, he swore to sleep with every chick he finds and never pay child support. So the system granted him the legendary predator skill. With his soul leaving his body, he realized that even a magician wouldn't be able to remain a virgin for 30 years. So God gifted him the unique skill, Great Sage. After letting out his final breath, Mikami's soul was transported into another world, where he would gain the greatest overpowered abilities and build his own civilization with the hottest monster girls. But before he could even move, he realized that he was reincarnated as a useless blind slime, and began testing his powers by dissolving the healing herbs in the caves. For hundreds of years, he began consuming everything he found in the caves, even though his body never needed food or sleep. And when he wondered where the food was disappearing off to, God's voice told him that this was part of his predator skill, the broken ability that allows him to infinitely store and analyze every object he eats. After analyzing the hippocute herbs he'd been consuming, the Great Sage skill revealed that he was able to create healing potions out of them. So he began consuming the rest of the herbs and converting them into healing potions. And once the cave ran out, he found a rare crystal and devoured it instantly. As he continued consuming the rest of them, he accidentally slipped off the cliff and fell into water. So without the ability to swim, he realized that he was about to die once again. But knowing that he can't die twice as a virgin, he began swallowing all the water to propel himself out of the situation, and swore to develop plot in this life. However, he propelled himself too fast and rushed into a barrier that knocked him back and destroyed his body. But after regenerating his damage, he heard an evil voice calling him a small one. At first, Mikami's trauma from his previous life made him think he was referring to his millimeter Peter, but the dragon screamed at him to listen already. The disgusting slime apologized because he couldn't see anything, so the dragon promised to give him vision on 2 conditions, and those were to keep him company and to not scream when he saw him. Once Mikami agreed, he gained the extra skill Magic Sense, one of the 10 taboo skills in the world. Before his eyes, he was able to see all the ores in the cave, but instantly became depressed when he saw he was just a worthless slime. But when he laid his eyes on the dragon, he began screaming because of how ugly he was, and the dragon introduced himself as the Storm Dragon, Veldora, one of the only 4 true dragons in this world. 300 years ago, he was sealed after turning an entire town to ashes by accident. And when the hero of the world defeated him, he was trapped with her unique skill, Unlimited Prison. After hearing his story, Mikami remembered how lonely he was being a virgin for 37 years, so he asked Veldora if they could become friends. However, Veldora was a typical dumbass tsundere, and said it's not like he would ever want to be friends with him or anything like that, Baka.
You don't find that suspicious?
After agreeing to become friends, the dragon revealed that he only has 100 years left before all of his magic runs out, and that this cave was filled with rare minerals because it was absorbing all his energy. However, Mikami didn't want to lose his only friend, so he attempted to use his predator skill on the barrier to break through. But the result was a failure just like his previous life.
Damn!
The only possibility of them breaking out of this prison was to analyze the barrier from the outside and inside. But since Veldora's skill were sealed away, he would need a long time before he could break the barrier. However, Mikami didn't want to lose his new friend, so he planned on putting him inside his stomach while traveling around, giving them both time to break this seal. After hearing his genius idea, Veldora laughed and agreed, glad to become part of his new adventures. But before they started, Veldora decided to give him a name so they could become a family, but asked the slime to name him first. As Mikami thought of a cool name to give the Storm Dragon, he decided to call him Tempest. After screaming in disgust about his name, he thought it was the great...
My waist has shrunk, and I have already lost so much weight.
I have even noticed my waist get smaller after using this.
You'll notice the difference in your waist just after one day.
Ever since taking Inno Cleanse, I just feel so much lighter. I'm getting rid of like so many thoughts.
He thought it was the greatest name to ever be given, and decided to call Mikami Rimuru Tempest. In that instant, a light emanated in Rimuru's soul, engraving the name into his very existence, making them a family that day. Before leaving, Rimuru used his broken ability to encapsulate the barrier and began swallowing it down. His great sage ability began analyzing the unlimited prison skill, but just then, the entire world felt the disappearance of Veldora, and all the kingdoms prepared to launch war. For the next few weeks, Rimuru continued swallowing more valuable minerals and unlocking broken abilities. At the same time, he began practicing his powers against all the monsters in the cave, and gained the ability to mimic their appearance when battling other monsters. Eventually, an S-class centipede appeared, but Rimuru destroyed it with a single blow, along with the giant black spider, giving him the ability to swing like Tarzan in the cave. Eventually, he was able to find the exit to the cave, and in that instant, the doors began to open. 3 adventurers stepped inside to investigate Veldora's disappearance, but before his eyes, they all vanished and began exploring. This was Rimuru's first chance to finally exit this disgusting place that was worse than his face. But as soon as he touched some grass, something you probably haven't done in a week, a swarm of ugly, worthless goblins surrounded him. All of their weapons were as clapped as their scrawny bodies, but they called Rimuru a strong one, and wondered why he was here. This was his first chance to speak, so as he attempted to let waves of air out, all of them were brought to their knees from the strength of his voice, and they begged him to be quieter. When he wondered why they were here, their leader begged him for a favor and took him to their goblin village. A disgusting old grandpa that should have just died last week introduced himself as the elder of the village, and told him that monsters have began ravaging the forest since their god disappeared last month. As he looked at their paintings, he realized that Veldora was their god, and the elder went on to ask him to help protect their village. However, Rimuru claimed he was just a weak slime, but the elder told him that there's no need to be modest, because his aura stinks worse than an anime convention. Wondering what they're talking about, Rimuru activated his great sage ability to change to their perspective, and saw the demonic aura he was emitting throughout the entire forest. Immediately, he sucked in all of his aura, and pretended as if this was all part of his plan to test them. The elder thanked him for being merciful to them, and explained the situation to him. A few weeks ago, half of the village's population were annihilated by direwolves, creatures that can eliminate 100 goblins before one of them is defeated. And with their entire pack unharmed, the village had only 60 warriors left, so the elder got on his knees and begged Rimuru to help them, swearing to become loyal only to him. After remembering how he was treated in his previous life, the wolves began howling at a distance. But Rimuru promised that he will give them his aid. All of them swore loyalty to Rimuru, and he became the leader of their village. As they prepared to battle, Rimuru realized they were all useless, weak-ass morons. So he decided that he would treat the wounded soldiers first. After they took him to their infirmary, Rimuru decided to swallow one of the soldiers, and spat him out after he was done with him. All of his wounds were healed, because when Rimuru swallowed him, he began injecting his insides with his warm, sticky healing liquid. One by one, Rimuru began healing all of the fallen soldiers, and before long, nighttime finally approached. The leader of the wolves had gathered all of his army and began rushing them towards the village. However, the goblins had built up some fences around, but the leader's son told him to be wary of the slime. Rimuru told them to leave before they all get annihilated, but the leader screamed at the pack to take down their entire fence and eat them all. However, the goblins began firing their arrows, and some of the wolves died mysteriously. But when the leader took a closer look, he noticed dangerous threads that had sliced all of them, enraging him to rush forward. As he bit down the threads and launched to eliminate Rimuru, he
Meet Lolo. Low-estrin FE is the birth control pill that provides pregnancy prevention with the lowest daily dose of estrogen. It may
and launched to eliminate Rimuru. He restrained him with his threads and launched his water blade to kill their leader in that instant. With their leader dead, Rimuru told them to submit or be killed, but after a while of their ugly asses not responding, he used his predator skill to swallow their leader and mimicked him. Using his new power, he screamed at the wolves to submit. But as they began resisting, he started worrying that he would have to kill all of them. However, they all kneeled before him, swearing to become his followers. As he transformed back, the village had finally gained its peace, but the following morning, Rimuru had no idea how he would care for all the new wolves along with the worthless villagers. So he decided to pair all of them together, and tried breaking them up into groups that would gather food and build shelter. But as he was about to give them directions, he realized that he didn't know the name of any of them. Rimuru decided to ask